The Tims, they are A-Changin. Does Timothée Chalamet impersonate Dylan or personify him? Plus, how come my essential Bob Dylan playlist only contains 16 songs spanning 17 years? Who's ready to spend Christmas Day with Bob Dylan? The release of the Timothée Chalamet starring Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, is set to stuff your stocking. Gather those little beatniks you call kids and drive your inexplicable Porsche station wagon over to the multiplex next to the Nordstrom and see a scowling folk musician complain about the government, the weather, and how he just wants to play the electric guitar, damn it. Now that I have satisfied my deep-seated anger with some sarcasm, let's step back from contemplating that most moneyed day of the year and return to the summer bliss of July 24th, 2024. Coincidentally, the day before Bob would have broken the internet, if there was the internet in 1965, by taking the Newport Folk Festival stage with an electric guitar. July 24th is the day that Searchlight Pictures released the first teaser for A Complete Unknown, which, thanks to the of-the-moment actor Timothy, finally helped Bob break the internet after all. I was impressed with this first look at the film. Unlike many of my snobby ilk, I watch with empathy for the creatives involved. These artists know that they are working within a corrupt system primarily focused on profit, and thus are slotting A Complete Unknown as their artistic Christmas Day film that will be shopped door to door during the Oscar season. This is to contrast with whatever event picture will also drop that day like so many Santas down the chimney. Essentially, while I am constantly shitting on the system, I will only shit on the cinema if it is suspicious. Timmy nails Dylan in this teaser. I call him Timmy because when I think of Timothy, I think of his rapper alter ego from high school, Ms. Lawin, which has become internet legend at 13 million views, and which Timmy is not embarrassed by to the point of being proud. We all have a perception of Bob Dylan, and when I say all, I am including Bob Dylan himself. Timmy personifies Dylan. Let's react! Oh wow, it's that low bass note that you hear in trailers to denote gravity. Seems over the top for a Bob Dylan biopic. This isn't Oppenheimer, but Bob is bound to drop some truth bombs in this flick. Edward Norton, as folk icon Pete Seeger, informs us that we are going to be told a little story. Such a folksy thing to say. When I see Edward, followed by another one of those low bass notes and some heartbeat-like thumping, I wonder if A Complete Unknown could be as powerful as a potential Fight Club 2. Don't talk about Fight Club. Singing about it is okay. Pete tells us that this young man dropped in out of nowhere, again, folksy, to play him and Woody, Guthrie, another folk icon, not the toy, a song. I couldn't care less if this story is accurate. It doesn't matter since it is cliché, and cliché is what a movie about an iconic cultural figure scheduled for Christmas release is supposed to be. This is a teaser, and I am teased. It is doing its job against the barrage of cynicism I am throwing at it. And then we hear the strumming. Acoustic guitar strumming always nails me. It is no wonder these glued together bits of wood and steel are the machine that kills fascists, according to the slogan that the real Woody mentioned above used to stick on his. This is Timmy's hand we hear, as it has already been reported that he plays guitar in A Complete Unknown. Then we hear stomping. Low bass notes, thumping heartbeats, and now stomping. We are not only in important film territory, we have crossed over into insistent. We got a feeling we were getting a glimpse of the future, explains Pete. Point? I'm getting emotional. Counterpoint? This line could be spoken about Bob or any other person or thing that gives a glimpse of the future. We hear Timmy as Bob begin to sing A Hard Rain's A-Gonna Fall. What I hear is not an impersonation. I hear what I hoped to hear, an interpretation. I hoped to hear Timmy channel Bob through the act of acting. Knowing how Timmy prepared for this role, and how Timmy prepared to be Timothy preparing for any role, I hear what I wanted to hear as a fan of craft, but I am also hearing what I need to hear as a man who is quick to criticize. I will discount the fact that A Hard Rain's A-Gonna Fall is a classic. It is so much so that even calling it a classic seems silly, since it is one of those songs that isn't even composed, although Universal Music, which bought Bob's publishing in 2020, would disagree. It is what I believe the definition of songwriter to be, which is when the documentation takes place in the most mystical of manners. The song already existed and was only written down. More pounding and more teaser-type shenanigans follow, but Timmy's interpretation holds me. A combination of nervous energy and confidence that would seem to embody a Bob at the time depicted, performing the song in its infancy. Then we get some clues as to the broader narrative to be told. We see 1960s Greenwich Village, a burgeoning romance, and rising fame. Shout out to the production designers, art directors, and scriptwriters. Keep getting paid while you can before mostly white men figure out how to take it away from you so they can afford more cars to crash. Again, this could be a teaser for anyone or anything. But beyond the advertising, the fact remains that Bob and these songs changed America and the world. The glimpse we see of Timmy's interpretation shows me that he has captured the weight of this. My Bob fandom is mild. I quit after Slow Train Coming, and I didn't even hear Blonde on Blonde in full until I was 35. I have never seen Bob live. I consider myself a casual fan. Author Jason Pargin, who posts relentlessly engaging and entertaining TikToks, recently talked about Bob being the singular artist that he does not have the ability to get. Jason explains that even with universally acclaimed artists that he doesn't understand, he can at least understand why they are universally acclaimed. Except for one. Bob. Jason admits that he knows he is wrong. He knows that Bob is a master, but he doesn't understand what those who designate masters as masters hear in Bob to arrive at that conclusion, even though he believes them to be correct. I understand where Jason is coming from. My quite narrow love of Bob comes from a rare combination of elements I only hear in a small window of his work. Bob's twisty poetry and turns of phrase connect in surprising ways, sung in the blasé vocal style of a detached observer barely holding on to his humanity. And the strumming. The strumming. My essential Bob Dylan playlist is culled from the period in between his self-titled debut in March of 1962 through Slow Train Coming in August of 1979. Over the course of that 17 years, which encompasses a third of Bob's official releases, there are only 16 songs that I can't live without. Notes. I would have included the John Wesley Harding track All Along the Watchtower if the Jimi Hendrix version didn't completely outweigh Bob's original. If Like a Rolling Stone were recorded today, we would have heard Bob say, "Yeah, I'm gonna play the motherfucking electric guitar. Fuck you, motherfucker, here we go!" The shit slaps. Positively 4th Street did not appear on any official Bob album. It was released as a single and contains my mother's favorite Bob lyric. "Yes, I wish that for just one time you could stand inside my shoes. You'd know what a drag it is to see you." Some albums over the 17 years didn't even merit a single pick, and I know why. For me to be fully invested in an artist beyond the stunning quality of the art, and nearly a song a year permanently occupying my person is already a pretty damn substantial commitment. I need to be invested in the artist personally. In these 16 songs, I feel Bob the man. When I hear Bob projecting himself into his songs, I am most in his palm. The pain of the writing and the relief of the performance. I suspect the Dylan diehards that I know and respect must feel that connection uninterrupted. Penn Jillette, the author and magician best known as the talking half of Penn and Teller, is one of the biggest Bob fans on the planet. He brings up Bob on more episodes of his podcast Penn's Sunday School than he doesn't. I found it funny when Penn revealed the other day that he has a role in the upcoming Timmy movie Marty Supreme, directed by Josh Safdie, and in talking about it, did not mention Timmy's upcoming turn as Bob. Penn will likely bring it up soon enough, I bet. I am a lifelong fan of Penn's, but like Jason Pargin, I am entirely okay with being wrong about the appropriate level of devotion that I should show Bob per Penn. Not every friend needs to be a best friend, and not every acquaintance is restricted from accessing my emotions. I also feel that, to like Dylan, even for 16 songs over 17 years, you must be a person who likes poetry. This is not a slight. It's not, "Oh, you don't get poetry, it goes over your head." In fact, the current hatred of the new Joker movie has manifested a backlash to the backlash by two literate fanboys, protesting with various versions of, "It was too smart for you." I can't stand that. I write poetry, and I completely understand why people hate poetry. I look at my work and often feel it's not poetry enough. It's too rhymey. And poetry shouldn't be too rhymey, because then it isn't serious. Which are poems? Which are song lyrics? I don't care. I have to write what feels right, and when I listen to my Essential Dylan, I hear poetry. I could understand why someone like Jason might react to this analysis with, "Ugh, I hate poetry. Even if this isn't recognizable to me as poetry, even if I can't consciously decide that it is poetry, I still hate it because it's poetry." A relevant tangent. I stopped working on this Timmy/Bob piece to write the following poem because I was feeling rhymey and was inspired by listening to my Essential Bob Dylan playlist.
The most mystical of manners. To all those who pander, cynical meanderers, whisper and glisten. I see you and don't want you. I hear you and won't listen. You will never know what you're missing when you only apply polite positions. The most mystical of manners is your universal mission. Ignore your parents' will to create friction. Ignore guardrails that are placed on your fiction. Wander and gander and slander with diction, defying the darkness of the human condition.
Which brings me back to Timmy. I get Timmy, and he got me with this teaser. Timmy may become one of his generation's best actors, and I am curious to see if he is an 16 essential songs over 17 years type of actor. Perhaps a complete unknown will bring me closer to believing in this potential reality. Everything I have written up to this point was intentionally done before watching the official trailer for A Complete Unknown, released just a few days ago. I did catch a few glimpses of some pretty harsh criticism of it, because the internet, and there have been some reports of reshoots. That said, here I go with an open mind. Let's react! The trailer starts low-key. No immediate tugging of heartstrings this time. We hear the voice of Edward Norton as Pete Seeger again, and oddly, I cannot understand the second word he speaks. I ran it back 3 times before resorting to turning on the captions. Pete says Bob has tramped to New York all the way from Minnesota. Tramped is an interesting word choice. The definition of tramped is to walk through or over a place wearily or reluctantly and for long distances. Okay, hyperbole. I guess the guy who wrote Blowin' in the Wind can't be thought to have taken the bus? Fine. Having spent much of the morning assembling and listening to my Essential Dylan playlist, I am standing behind Timmy as interpreter, not impersonator. I am getting the same chills. These are not, "Wow, Timmy sounds like Bob" chills. These are, "Wow, Timmy is Bob" chills. We get a more fleshed out idea of Bob's romantic life, this time focusing more on his relationship with fellow folkie Joan Baez. Remember, no matter what, this is Hollywood movie making at the upper tier of expense and with the highest stakes. This latest complicated artist star in the making, tangled up in several romances film could be about anybody. Insert iconic subject here. Shade always at the ready, but no shade thrown. Bob drops some typical, "here's what it takes to get noticed" platitudes, which again I am forgiving because, for your consideration, A Complete Unknown. Fine. But hey, I am still chilling, which is not relaxing. It is the act of actually getting chills. 200 people in that room, and each one of them wants me to be somebody else. They should just let me be whatever it is they don't want me to be. I love this line. And I love Timmy's delivery of it. It feels like an exact summation of what I get out of Bob and what I don't get out of Bob. When he is what I want him to be, he is flawless. When he's not, as he is not on 40 albums and counting, then I just don't know. The Bob fans that are along for the entire ride are there for whatever it is they don't want me to be. Bob is an unknowable enigma that will never be pinned down or understood, and they like it that way. Then we get a cool conflict moment as Bob is famously about to go electric at Newport. In retrospect, for the Newport crowd to get so upset about Like a Rolling Stone is just laughable. Bob's still strumming that Strat after all. I wish Jimmy could have laid Watchtower on them and made their ears bleed all over their blown-off Birkenstocks. I said aw out loud when we see Bob getting some encouragement from Johnny Cash, played by Boyd Holbrook, when Bob laments that as his music is evolving, he's not sure that they want to hear what I want to play. Johnny leans in and tells Bob, I want to hear it. I am writing through misty eyes now, which you may know to take under advisement since I seek to allow art to make me emotional. Hot take, I am on board with this trailer. Discounting the required button pushing of the marketing of a multi-million-dollar investment, I still feel like I am being asked to enjoy a piece of art. While A Complete Unknown is not being held up as intentionally artful like the 2007 biographical Bob drama I'm Not There was, it is clearly not an overtly pandering biopic either. Timmy's integrity will remain intact. Will he best Cate Blanchett as Bob in I'm Not There? Will he deliver an Oscar-nominated performance? That barometer of an artist's worth is undermined by the buying and selling of awards. So let's leave it to me to decide, okay? Like Bob says, let me be whatever it is they don't want me to be.